The following is a Sports Ethos presentation. Yo, welcome to another episode of Roundball, Ramble. Yep, that's it. I'm your host, Corbin Ford. You can follow me on Twitter at CorbinNBA. As the intro says, this is a Sports Ethos presentation, so check out Sports Ethos on Twitter at Sports Ethos online, sportsethos.com. It's pretty simple. I can't even get that confused, so definitely make sure to do that. We are in the midst of playoff action. We're going to have some recaps and such. The Celtics have now moved on to the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami Heat. That is insane. Shout out to Boston, Milwaukee played admirably well without the service of Chris Middleton all playoff series, but still, we'll break that down in the future. Right now, we are talking draft. We got the draft lottery coming up Tuesday by the time y'all listen to this one, Tuesday night, with Game 1 of the Celtics versus Heat. And to set this up, we've had a couple of draft-centric shows, but this is where it gets official. I got my guys on this one, y'all. All right, we got from the Upside Swings podcast and literally several different places across draft Twitter. We have Bryce Hendricks. We have Cooper Klein. Listen, besides being just two of my best buddies out here in general, but also just draft experts, they are legends in their own right. You can follow Cooper on Twitter at Ali_oop_Coop. You can follow Bryce on Twitter at BryceHendrick14. Bryce, Cooper, how y'all doing today?
I'm good. Glad we're discussing the draft and not the recent Storm Mercury basketball game. We're going to leave that one. We're going to leave that one in the past. And but I'm great. Always happy to be on it. This might be first of two. If Coop and I are lucky, we get to come back before the draft. But, always happy to do a mock draft with you, my guy.
Oh, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Coop, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Riding high off of a Celtics victory, Grant Williams being a king. Nothing better than that. And I'm just excited, There's nothing better than talking draft, especially, with two of my best friends that I met through doing this. So I'm super excited. Let's get right into it.
Absolutely. Let's do it. And we actually went to old Tankathon, which we will go to. This is probably the last time before we actually know the actual order, but Tankathon's old reliable. Everyone uses up to I would say the minute before we get the envelopes open. So we have a Tankathon here. We're going to do the lottery here with my guys. We have it sorted out. Bryce went and used it, and I'm just going to read through. Detroit, Houston. It almost hurts me to say the Lakers pick. That is now the Pelicans, but, we won a championship, so it is what it is. Pelicans, the Thunder pick from the Clippers. Then Orlando, Oklahoma City, Indiana, Portland, Sacramento, San Antonio, Washington, New York, Charlotte, and Cleveland. This is for you to round it all out. This is definitely going to be a spicy one, especially with some teams here that I wasn't expecting to be, later in the lottery. But we'll have a fun little order. We're going to let we have an expert here for Detroit. We have an expert here for Houston. And then we got myself, and we're just going to go from there. 1 through 3, each of us taking turns. So Detroit is up on the clock. I imagine that is Bryce.
That is me.
All right.
I'm sure this is a surprise to no one, but I'm going Paolo Banchero here.
Okay.
He's been the number one guy on my board since this time last year, and that hasn't changed despite, I think some would say maybe a different season at Duke than they expected, but still, the size, the fluidity, the shot creation, the passing, it's just too easy for me not to love. I think he'll probably slot in at the 4 early for the Pistons, but I think your hope is that eventually he could maybe play the 5 for them. But even if he doesn't, you just get you're building around two super high feel, super skilled forwards who can pass and defend and score for themselves in Cade and Paolo. That's a pretty good start to a rebuild, if you ask me.
Cooper, you have any reaction to this?
He left me my guy, so that's all that matters here. At 2, since I got left here at 2 with Houston, I just pick whichever of the top 2 Bryce would leave me. And I knew who Bryce would leave me because he is very vocal about his love. He's very unbiased. Just for the record, he has zero bias in loving Paolo Banchero.
Okay.
But here, with the second overall pick, the Houston Rockets will select Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga. Pretty easily the top guy on my board by a pretty large margin, especially for the Rockets. The defensive ability to protect the rim, can just stifle guys no matter what. Like he can come from behind, he can slide in, he can block any shot or contest it. Doesn't matter about the weight. He's dominating college hoops at the same weight as me, and he's a foot taller than I am. Imagine when that guy puts on 20, 25 pounds. What does that look like in the NBA? Just unstoppable.
That's a good pick. I definitely, yeah. I mean, that's the hope. I mean, mind you, I'm going to ask you both this question since I've had it as well. It's been tossed around, some for, I want to say honest, and some just throwing it out there for, say, controversy. Are we concerned about Chet? I mean, he's going to gain muscle. He's going to be a bigger player. Is there at all concern about the frame just in its entirety, even with him added muscle, or are we kind of just overblowing this with compared to the skill set that he brings to the table?
I think it's super overblown. And I think that there's no better like person to examine than the person who should have won Rookie of the Year last year, Evan Mobley. Okay. Had the same sort of, is he too skinny? It doesn't matter when you're this good at basketball. It just like I think for me, that originally the too skinny thing stemmed from the idea of injuries. But there hasn't been any real link of skinniness to more injury prone other than like super tall dudes. And that might happen anyways. Yao wasn't skinny and he was still super injury prone. Sorry to pick that scab, Coop. But I think that, Chet is just, he's so good. And he might, struggle against a Joel Embiid. But honestly, at that point, like, just you'll kind of figure it out. His defense is so special. The passing is really solid. The shooting is there. Like he's just such a sound prospect that if you're really, nitpicking to the extent of, he's probably too skinny, then I think you're just kind of missing the forest for the trees a little bit.
Definitely understand that. I appreciate that for sure. I guess that leaves me third. We have the New Orleans Pelicans after I don't want to say it's surprising. They were trying to get, they were trying to get a spot in the playoffs all year. I guess surprising given their horrific start. They definitely gave the Suns quite a challenge in that first round. Now they're here with the third overall pick. And the one thing I noticed that they needed, throughout the entirety of their postseason action, and they really throughout the season, was shooting. I mean, if you look at the shooters on their team, you have, of course, CJ McCollum, you have Brandon Ingram, Devontae Graham had an off and on kind of year from three, but he in theory is a shooter, and then Trey Murphy as well. But like, aside from Jonas Valanciunas uncorking a three every once in a while, and Herb Jones doing the same, that's about all, folks. So I think we're getting my favorite. I mean, he's right up there with another guy we're going to talk about. I've mentioned before you went on air as neck and neck for my favorite player in this draft. But I have a type. Everyone knows it. I am picking Jabari Smith Jr. Love that guy, man. And also I think that you're getting a guy who defensively is going to be stout in a great system. I think with what the Pelicans are starting to do under Willie Green, I can imagine just him being able to switch basically 3 to 5 in terms of his length and defensive versatility in that end. But also, this is where I come in. Offensively, the dude can shoot like nobody's business. And so you look at the space in the floor, out to three, just completely opening the floor for Zion Williamson, for Brandon Ingram in the mid-range, for CJ McCollum. Imagine just a 5-out lineup where you basically have Zion, Trey Murphy, Jabari Smith Jr., CJ, and Brandon Ingram. Like, that's length, that's size, that's shooting, and you have Zion running amok in there. That's just a 2K basketball GM dream right now, but that's who I would like to fit there. And another guy who can grow with this core and be the perfect ancillary piece that could potentially down the line be maybe more of a go-to guy.
Yeah, I really like this fit. Sorry, Bryce, gonna just steal the spotlight. No, I don't. I think there's maybe somebody who fits the shooting angle a bit better. I know Bryce and I are of the same opinion there, but can't go wrong with Jabari Smith Jr. He's going to be a solid point of attack defender. Him and Herb on the wings, Made sure to pronounce it there. I get
Oh,
bullied
there
every
you go.
single time I call him Herb.
Yeah, my bad. I go back and forth as I get there too.
Yeah, but
no, you cannot call him Herb. I'm sorry.
I try to make the H silent, like Herb. Like,
it's just natural.
Like a hint of a Herb. I don't know. Whatever. We're not gonna flame me on my take.
Y'all gotta call him. Just call him Herbert.
Herbert.
You're never gonna say it.
Herbert. No, you're right. I'm not. It's such an odd name to go. Yes, thank you. It's like anyway. We're not going to go on a tangent here, but yes, Herbert. There we go.
Yes, Herbert, Jabari, and Trey on the wings is a really fun, diverse, interesting group. You get a lot of, you have somebody who can also cover up for Brandon Ingram and can fit really well with Zion when he ends up coming back. Zion, ultimate paint touches guy. Jabari, the opposite of a paint touches guy. So I think this is a really fun fit. Something we've kind of talked about before on one of our mocks that we've done, but just can't go wrong with this fit.
Yeah, I understand this pick. It's not the pick I would have made, but I do get it. His defense is better than the guy I would have taken, and if you're just like Zion, Brandon Ingram are the only shot creation we need, then I sort of get Jabari Smith over the guy I would have taken. But that leaves OKC up at 4. They moved all the way up with the Clippers pick, and they are going to get my number 3 in a tier of his own at 3. Adrian Griffin Jr. I think he is the perfect fit here in OKC, assuming he's healthy. Again, we don't have intel on what those knees look like, but for everything I've heard, he's fine. And there's just, this freshman year was a bit of him coming back, but just a really specifically excellent shooter, one of the best overall scorers of his age group in high school, and sort of had to take a step back into a different role at Duke and excelled in that. I thought he was great at Duke, one of the best freshman shooting seasons we've ever seen. Just a historically good shooter. I've made the argument that he's probably already a top 10 shooter on the planet. I know some people don't want to hear that, but I really do think that's true. And you also combine the fact that he's 6'7" and built like a Mack truck. I think he's a perfect, you can build around him. You can, with Shea as well, you can take your time if you want to be bad one more year to try and get Wemby and sort of ease him into it. But I really like his addition to that wing room there. I really like Aaron Wiggins. I still like Poku a lot. So you add Adrian Griffin Jr. and you're starting to actually build a more real team, considering OKC was a fake team this past year. So starting to put together a team that resembles a future is really important for me with OKC, and Griffin seems like the guy there.
Real quick, I have a question. Is Griffin a better shooter than Jabari in your estimation? I mean, both numbers look astronomical.
Yeah,
okay,
I would, yes. And it's mostly because of track record. Jabari Smith Jr. was not this type of shooter coming out of high school. He flashed it, and I thought he could be a really good shooter, but I would not have thought, best shooter in this draft coming in, whereas Adrian Griffin Jr. was like a 40% shooter throughout all of high school and AAU, which is just very unheard of. Very good shooters are not 40% shooters across their high school career. So for Griffin to do that, to develop the way he has, again, just he's missing those game reps, and there's no better place for him to just sort of get those than OKC. So
definitely,
I love this fit. AJ Griffin, absolute GOAT, can fill in, in the wings where OKC has only guards and weirdo forwards. So really fits the need there for them. But Bryce has left me with, I know Corbin was talking about, he's getting one of his 2 favorite players. I'm getting my favorite player. Don't worry, for the Orlando Magic here at 5. I don't know if anybody figured this out yet. I don't know if anybody knew that this would happen, but with the 5th overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic select Tari Eason and lean even further into the bit of Orlando only drafts long forwards. I think Isaac is kind of expendable. I think, do you really like his salary is going to be 0 in 2 years if he doesn't play. He's making $7 million next year. And then if he doesn't hit some game threshold, and then making 0 And there's a very real chance he doesn't play. The injuries have just been awful. I think having just another front court guy, so that way you can consolidate some of the just copious amounts of like fine young guys that they have. I think Tari's probably the best player left in my eyes. And it's just tough because Orlando doesn't have a hole that's not real shot creator. And both of the guys who I think can do that are off the board in Paolo and AJ. In this scenario, I would have done anything to trade up to 4 with OKC and get AJ Griffin, because I think that is just absolutely perfect. But can't go wrong with more defense, more length, more incredible instincts, great work ethic. Just he got that dog in him. And he's really going to work here in Orlando.
I love that. Absolutely. That's a good fit. I do agree. And I think trading up would make more sense there to fill a need more hand in glove in that way. But given with the pick that you have available, like, it does fit what Orlando's front office does. Shout out to Jeff Altman, right? Looking at Oklahoma 6, this is tough because Oklahoma kind of got a player that would have fit. If I'm thinking of Oklahoma, I'm like, what do they need help in? Well, a few areas, right? Like, their guards position is probably the only thing that's arguably locked down between Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey, right? Apparently SGA wants to be the point, but Giddey's more of a point. Whatever case may be, your backcourt's locked in. So then, forward spot, you already have now in this draft AJ Griffin. So do you really need like a 2-guard? Because my guy is still left on the board. But I don't want to swing that. I just don't want to go too early with the guy I'm going to pick, but I feel like I'm going to have to do that because the front court does need help. This guy is young enough and is so dominant physically, and potential I just see a lot more there. I'm going to go maybe a pick or two higher than I normally would and select Jalen Duren to go to Oklahoma City. I just like the fact that, again, he's someone that he fills a position of need. He's someone that's going to fit well in terms of being able to play the exact same type of game he's playing in Memphis, in terms of just rebounding misses and maybe some more pick and roll play than he had over there. And just kind of give him the floor space there in the front court and kind of see where it goes. And so that's why I'm looking at him number 6 to Oklahoma City.
This pick is beautiful. You can't go wrong by actually drafting good players. OKC getting someone who can actually fill in the big spot, and potentially if they achieve their grand master plan of getting Wemby, I think they can play together. You know, Wembanyama and Duren is a pretty dominant front court. Duren just an incredible shot blocker, one of the top players in the best conferences in America this year. Just really a perfect fit here, and hopefully a real pick and roll partner for Shai that's not a 47-year-old Derek Favors.
I'm lower on Duren than this, but this is like an area where I'm fine taking him because specifically, again, if the Thunder are actually trying to build a real team, he's a really good fit there. I like, you know, he's a good mix of physical dominance, but also pretty high feel with the passing stuff and sort of how he maneuvers on defense. The Memphis context was rough for him. I don't think that's super accurate to how he's going to play in the league. And again, I'm with Coop, where it's just getting like a real role man for Shai is so it's especially if keeping him happy is important. You know, even if you guys are going to be bad again, like at least he can have some fun throwing lobs to someone and having someone who sets good screens and all that type of stuff. So I like this pick, even if I'm a little lower on Duren than this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm up at 7 with the Indiana Pacers, and I'm running to the podium if I'm them because I want Johnny Davis here. I've said for a long time that my ideal fit in Indiana is Johnny Davis because I think him and Tyrese, if Tyrese Halliburton is your build around piece, I think his fit with Johnny Davis is so excellent. And I'm not convinced still that Halliburton is like a build around piece for what it's worth, but I just love him here. And him and Johnny Davis is a backcourt. I think you're also building the perfect ecosystem for if you can draft that superstar next year. That's a really awesome connectory backcourt. I just love Johnny Davis. The defense, I think he's going to shoot. I don't think he's ever going to be like a super high level scorer all-star type, but like I think he can get some buckets when you need it. I think he's high feel and he's just intense, man. He just really gives a shit. And that's the thing that I think does matter to me. So this will be, I think it'll shock some that I'm taking him over Jaden Ivey, but I'm just a fan of Johnny Davis, especially in Indiana.
Yeah, listen, so am I, Bryce. I was in my head. Listen, y'all, I'm sorry. We were talking about before air. Johnny Davis is my dude. I just thought that Jaden Ivey would be who you went with. I didn't even consider that you might go Johnny Davis. Analyst hat back on. I do like that pick. You gave great details to why he fits in terms of effort, energy, tough shot making, and a guy who, again, if you're unsure of the backcourt fit, you mentioned Jaden Ivey and maybe his kind of uneasy fit alongside Tyrese. I would agree with that. If anything, it'd be more like De'Aaron Fox Part 2. You know, if you didn't believe that worked in that space, then grabbing a younger player who fits some of the same archetype there potentially has that same feel, you know, especially with the iffy jumper from Jaden Ivey, although he's been really solid from three this season. So, I'm shocked and a little hurt, but at the same time, I am happy that, Johnny Davis has a great fit there.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to pair Halliburton with just an even lower feel version of De'Aaron Fox, then I guess you'd go with Jaden Ivey. But I love the Johnny Davis fit. I was crying laughing because I know that's Corbin's guy.
I couldn't even hide it. I was like, I was not even expecting to hear.
This happens every single time we record anything. Is Bryce takes Corbin's guy or Corbin just absolutely destroys everything.
This is where the breakdown begins.
I love it. But this is really tough because I'm here with Portland and I don't want to be a walking stereotype, but you guys seem to have left me no choice. My stereotype is that every single time I do a mock draft, I only select forwards and a few bigs, but I cannot for the life of me justify taking a guard for Portland because their only star is a guard. Their only good young players are guards or small wings. And so we're just going to go best player left on my board. And here with the 8th pick in the 2022 NBA draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Kendall Brown out of Baylor. I think he's got a lot of potential, but I think he'll fill a role next to Dame. If they try and win, he can be a cutter and a connector. Just add some real size, some rebounding. The grab and go potential is just incredible. Doesn't really need to play defense properly in this context yet. He'll figure out how to do it alongside all the other awful defenders on this team. Him and him and Trendon Watford can be bad together. But I think
you went Watford over Greg Brown, huh?
Wow.
Oh, well, there's a lot. There's a lot on this team. But I think just an athlete who can run, worst case, has a floor next to a star like Dame, but then can also be a connector and maybe be something more down the line for them.
I love this pick. I'm hugely high on Kendall Brown, as is Coop. So I think this is a great pick. And I think it's a great fit too. Right now, the Trailblazers' young core is just a mismatch of guys I like as like fourth starters or bench pieces, but no clear, aside from Simons, who's really good, but no clear like player to build around really. And not that Kendall Brown can be that, but I think his fit with what they do have, whether that's going to be to play immediately or sort of sit and develop depending on what the Blazers decide to do, what Damian Lillard wants to do. I just think this was the best fit available on the board, I think.
I like. So Sacramento is here. And wow, this is not a position I wanted to be in. Couldn't have really foretold how this would go. This is tough, really, because I mean, Sacramento needs help, and like I want to get a wing player, sort of, but wing players kind of go to Sacramento to die, you know. See Harrison Barnes and any other wing guys they've had the last couple of years. But then if I bring a point guard, I mean, obviously we'll have the issues they've had between De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, who is now in Indiana, and Davion Mitchell. So I'm gonna go and take a swing for the unknown here. I really am so annoyed about this guy. I really just would rather find out, like, is he in, is he not, so I can actually like learn about him and not be like, oh my goodness. But I'm gonna go Shaedon Sharpe. I feel like he's a 2, right? And where the Kings have been between Dante DiVincenzo and his qualifying offer and Jeremy Lamb, like they've kind of just rotated these random guys at 2. You know, they had Aaron Holiday, like not Aaron Holiday, the other Holiday brother. I'm sorry. Like they just don't have a number 2 that I think like a 2 guard that's locked in. Davion Mitchell's not that guy. Neither's De'Aaron Fox. And those 2 point guard lineups, in my opinion, really shouldn't be utilized that much if you're actually trying to make the playoffs. I could have went for no. I'm gonna go with this. So I think Shaedon Sharpe. I mean, athletically, you see the potential there. Shooting, the potential there. I think the keyword here is potential. I don't know. I'm not exactly high on this pick. I just don't want to send like a Keegan Murray or a Dyson Daniels, who were guys I considered over there, because I just don't trust that they will, like their type of game will, they seem like more ancillary pieces that guys who will blend in well. And like, you're blending, with all due respect, De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. Like, we need at least, maybe Shaedon Sharpe comes up there and he owns Sacramento in like a year or 2. I'm really not high in this, as you could tell, but I'm going with Shaedon Sharpe, Sacramento.
I love that you're making a pick because you don't want someone to get ruined by Sacramento. Like, it's like, I don't want to take Keegan Murray here because I like him, and that's like, but
I just don't. Yeah, he'll be another.
This is not the high schooler I would have taken, but that's okay because it leaves him on the board for me next.
Okay, I want to hear who this is, because I'm gonna draft. You taking advantage of a draft with me here, Bryce?
But okay? I actually don't hate the Shaedon pick if you're just like, the Kings need a miracle, and Shaedon might be that miracle. So like, as far as that goes, even though I'm much lower on Shaedon than many, I actually don't think this is like a horrible spot. And you're right, the Kings just they need something, man. Bring Dave Yeager back. Like, what are they doing?
Right, it's been a mess. Oh man, let's hear your pick. I'm excited because like, you guys are upside swings. I'm more swing and a miss. So
you've been waiting on that one.
You know it. Batter up, baby.
Oh my god. So next is San Antonio, and this is the dream Leonard Miller spot. Just, I could not have the board could not have fallen any more perfectly than for San Antonio to end up with Leonard Miller. 6'11" forward from Canada, really showed out in the Nike Hoop Summit. And you go back and you watch some of his stuff, just one of the most impressive movers I've ever seen. Like, super fluid, flashes a lot of handle, a lot of passing. The jumper needs work. Like, he needs work. He's definitely, at least a year away from being like a super productive guy, but you buy the physical makeup with the skill and the feel. Like, it's just like, it's such a believable package. And again, you go to San Antonio where they have some good pieces. Obviously, I'm DeJounte Murray's biggest fan. Keldon Johnson, I really love. Devin Vassell, one of my favorite players in the league, but they don't have any sort of, superstar bet. And Leonard Miller might be the best player in this range. It's just could this guy become an all-star? Could he, obviously there's someone who's fallen on the board who some people are going to say is a better bet at that. But I really think that Miller here is just the perfect fit. They need a front court player like this draft. I feel like they have to walk out with a front court player, and Leonard Miller he fits like a glove here, I think. So huge fan that he fell this far.
You know what's funny? Cooper mentioned earlier, like a common trope between the 3 of us is you picking a guy that I really wanted, just ahead of me. Another one is you coming up with a guy I've just heard of today. For those who have not listened before, we were doing these historical drafts, and Bryce would be like, yeah, this guy, insert random player A, right now he's overseas, but if he was to come to the NBA, he'd be like amazing with quick hands and fluid motion. All-time
redraft pick. I took him. He was like my 6th pick. Like, he was my 6th man. Vasilije Micic.
And I'm over here like, who? Like, that was here right now. You're like, oh, the high schooler I, didn't know. I'm sitting going, I feel like I looked it up. You're like, Leonard Miller. And I'm like, well, what? So here we go. Another one off the board. Ziam, I don't even want to butcher the poor man's name, Bryce. I'm not going to know it. I'm sorry. I still remember. I just remember being puzzled when you picked him. Like, oh, yeah, he's going to be a guy, the best guy you've never heard of. And like, to this day, I still haven't heard of, aside from you. But like, also, I believe your scouting report. So, there it is. But all right, I'm moving on. I'm sorry. I think it was Cooper next. I just wanted to say shout out to Bryce for coming up with another guy that now I have to immediately after this pod go and Google. So I'm gonna look him up.
Leonard Miller is so much fun. You got to watch the film, Corbin. He is incredible.
I can't wait. Can't wait.
So I'm here with Washington at 11, and I could be bullied because I don't want to take Jaden Ivey here. I think I don't like that with Brad. I don't want to do Bradley Beal like that. As if he really wants to stay, I don't need Bradley Beal being made upset by Jaden Ivey awful kick out passes. So I think Washington has a lot of weird, semi-interesting pieces that at the beginning of the year looked really promising and made sense together. And then just injury, all the wheels fell off the Washington bandwagon really quickly. But I'm going to go with somebody who I think has a little bit of sneaky upside, but can also be an elite connector, make some of those pieces make more sense together, especially next to Beal, next to Kuzma. And we're going to go, but I didn't do the thing, whatever. The Wizards are going to take Dyson Daniels out of the G League Ignite here at 11. I think just a super mega connector, incredible touch, elite lockdown defender, can slide into a couple different positions, doesn't need to be your main ball handler, probably be able to shoot it one day. Just super interesting, funky player. Of course, I think if Washington was really here, they would select somebody really boring and old who can shoot. But I want to give them somebody interesting, young, kind of go against the tide of what they've gone against and really fill a need that they have here.
That's a good one. I mean, between Daniels, Denny, Avdija, and Rui Hachimura, you're going to have an interesting, multifaceted like front court. And continue to have no point guard around Bradley Beal, but that may be okay. I like it because each guy brings something to the table. That's okay. Okay, I can see it.
This feels like the pick the real Wizards would make because it's an international market. They haven't drafted yet, so they need that sweet international money, and it's a reach. So those two combined.
Sorry. I'm not taking. I didn't take him at 46 like you would want me to, Bryce.
He's good. He's good value. He's good value at like 30, but at 11, God, I just can't get there at 11. Really, I have him at 24 currently on my board, and that's my not yet fully constructed one. So this is a pretty gigantic reach for me. But that's okay. I don't know how you can't. I don't know how you don't take Jaden Ivey here because the Wizards just desperately need that type of upside on their roster. But it's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
No, I can't do that to Brad. I'm sorry. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. I definitely wouldn't wish it on Brad.
All right. I mean, there it is. I don't hold Brad in quite that light, Cooper, but I appreciate you, preserving Bradley. Not Bradley, I'm with you on that, Listen, he played Russell Westbrook. I'm playing. I'm just kidding. Now I'm getting my Russ bias on. All right, we're gonna go with the Knicks. I should just do what I've seen all the mocks, which is take Ty Washington, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna go with Jaden Ivey because he's fallen kind of far. I think that Knicks need a point guard. I think Jaden Ivey would be a shot in the arm just from athletic perspective. Someone who, the Knicks have not had a good guy there in a minute. And if you look at the Knicks roster with the young guys they do have, I think that he's someone that could fit right in, not only fill a position of need, but also bring some of that much needed athleticism to be able to push the pace with some of the younger guys on this squad. Maybe rejuvenate all of a sudden just totally out of the loop Julius Randle. And with his speed, athleticism, like you look at that, why get Russell Westbrook? Although please get Russell Westbrook when you can just get Jaden Ivey, if you're in New York. I don't see why you pass up the opportunity. And he's in need of there. So I think that this is something that could be filled. And the fact that he slid this far would be a godsend for New York, personally.
Yeah, they desperately need paint touches. And that's the one thing that Ivey's going to get you over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. This is just the correct pick. It has to be Ivy here. It should have been Ivy a pick ago, but that's all right.
Oh, snap. Okay. I love it. I don't get too many. That's the correct pick from Bryce. I get this all lots interesting, so I'm glad I got this one. I will take it. It's on my badge of honor. Thank you, sir.
I think Bryce is up now with Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Charlotte, super weird. I don't really know what to do with them. This would have been another great Leonard Miller landing spot. Or I was kind of hoping Jalen Duren would still be here. What do I want to do? Okay. I'm gonna go kind of a weird fit, but just sort of I feel like they're at a point where if there's not a big who I'm like dying to take here, I just need to go BPA. So I'm gonna go Blake Wesley. Um, from Notre Dame, someone who I've just recently gotten really deep into it, and I'm just super impressed. One of the funkiest ball handlers in this class. I think the feel is really developing. Um, Shooting, take it or leave it, but as a bet on a secondary creator next to LaMelo, or maybe even, I mean, I have my worries about LaMelo ever being a good half court creator. Maybe your bet to be your primary half court initiator. I really like Blake Wesley here. I think LaMelo is very good. For him to be like the best player on a really good team, I think you need to surround him with a really good core and some other guys who can make plays. You have Miles Bridges. I think that's a great fit. And Blake Wesley's just another guy who can dribble, who can really pass, who defends his ass off. Like he'll be the best defender on this team from day one, and who I think can probably shoot and just does enough. Like as a two guard, as like I said, maybe even your point guard in some lineups, some configurations. Like I just think he's a really solid bet here towards the end of the lottery.
I like it.
Yeah, that's pretty killer. Can't go wrong with BPA. Wesley is awesome. The finishing, especially in the half court, not there yet, but it's pretty clear what you need to fix with Wesley. And I hope Charlotte can fix that. I think they will, especially if they get the greatest coach of all time, Mike D'Antoni, in there soon. But, unless y'all got anything else to say, I'm going to be picking with Cleveland here at 14. Right. And Cleveland, there's somebody who's pretty clearly the best pick left on my board, but I can't really take them for Cleveland because Cleveland has, let's just say, a lack of shooting in the front court positions at their 4 and 5. I think Mobley will be able to shoot. I think Allen can kind of space to the corner. But as we saw this year, they are good. This Cleveland team is elite. They can stop you on defense in a bunch of different ways. They can beat you. And I think that they are just a few solid pieces away from being really, really interesting. So here at 14, the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to select MarJon Beauchamp out of the G League Ignite. Just a really great wing defender who can fill in the gaps for them on offense, can probably shoot. I think that this year was a little bit fluky in a bad way for him. An elite cutter, elite finisher, just does. It's 100% obvious that he's going to be an NBA player at a pretty high level, someone who can slide into that starting spot for them, bring it, add to their defensive culture, and just fit in with some of the weirder pieces that they have and slot in different lineups in different ways and just be a real glue guy.
I like that. What do you think, Bryce? I'm only kind of just becoming more familiar with Bryce Hendricks. I mean, not Bryce Hendricks' game, MarJon Beauchamp's game. But I'm still actually getting familiar with Bryce's game on Twitter. Look at his shooting. I think I saw it there a couple weeks ago. But anyway, going back, like as someone athletic, like you're right. Like I think his fit would be there, especially if his shooting is consistent. I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, I think the Cavs are really upset that Blake Wesley's not here because they desperately need a player like him. Like secondary creator is just like that's in bold letters as what do the Cavs need. But slightly below that is sort of 3-and-D wing types. And I think MarJon is one of the better bets in this class at that. I'm with Coop where I like him a little better than Keegan Murray. So I'm going to take him there. And I just think he's the type of guy who really just fits next to the high feel centers and point guards you have. Just continue to build an elite defense around Darius Garland and then figure out the secondary creator when that pick is right, rather than reaching for someone who could maybe fill that. So I think this is a good pick here.
You don't believe in Colin Sexton and Karis LeVert? That's so strange, Bryce. I I would have profiled you as a huge
who would have guessed? Guys. Who would have guessed? I don't like Colin Sexton. Who could have?
I don't know. Every time I hear it, it's like a fresh new what? No, I'm like, okay. Well, with that, I mean, we came and did the lottery. What I'm gonna do before we kind of close out is really just ask you guys, what based off this tankathon that we have here, with the order, we're only doing the lottery, but we have extended to the first round. Would there be any picks you would look past this lottery that you're looking for a player to hopefully find a team? I hope that question made sense. Like an ideal fit for a player that's still available outside the lottery. There we go.
That's a really good question. I'm struggling to think of that's like, I really think that that Jalen Williams in Golden State is like a dream fit. Like if Golden State, if he's there at 28, which I think is fairly likely, I think that is one of my sort of dream fits right there, just because Golden State getting another guy who can handle the ball, who plays good team defense and can shoot, as sort of Jordan Poole continues to grow, you can build him into a sixth man and continue just the sort of legacy that you've built here and continue to have good, versatile ball handlers on the court at all times. And then the other one, I think this is maybe weird for some, but I think if Bryce McGowan falls to the Bucks, that's an ideal scenario for them, because I think, as crazy as it sounds, considering they have one of the most athletic players of all time, I think the Bucks really need a jolt of athleticism. And Bryce McGowan can do that, and he's going to take his time to develop there. But you kind of saw that the depth was really hurting with the Bucks today, especially, Grayson Allen having to play huge playoff minutes because Chris was out. And, as Drew and Chris get older, you sort of have to start looking to reload with youth that you can develop. And I think Bryce McGowan he's young, he can really develop there, and can eventually be, a secondary type, maybe sixth man type, but scorer next to Giannis who can space the floor for him and make some plays for himself. So those are the two that really strike me as good fits.
I like that.
The biggest one is that there's Chicago at 18. And if Keegan Murray has fallen this far, I am slamming my credit card on the table, desperately trying to grab Keegan Murray. As much as I'm not the biggest Murray fan, Chicago desperately needs size. I think Murray's someone who can play the 4 or the small ball 5 for them. I think him and Pat Will as a front court combination is really interesting. Adds some spacing, adds some real versatility to their front court defense. An elite team defender, can fit into their scheme. Super action heavy. Him and Caruso and Lonzo and just a bunch of solid defenders on that team. And then I would love to see Houston get Sohan. Sohan, who was the guy who I was talking about going to potentially to the Cavs. I just cannot, if I'm the Cavs and how high did they get in the standings at some point this year? They were like mega high in the standings at a random point in the year. Yeah. And I can't justify taking Sohan, who might not be able to shoot at all. This year might have been a mega fluke. But if you're Houston and you have the chance to just add an elite defender, just someone who brings a lot of versatility and you can bank and you have the time to develop that shot, I would really love that. And then if I'm Atlanta, I'm desperately trying to get Mathurin, just to make your other wing slightly more expendable for a consolidation trade. Bring in a real star that actually fits next to Trey and change it up a little bit, not just come into the next year just hoping and praying that something magical happens again.
That makes sense. Well, listen, I appreciate both of y'all giving me your takes on that. I definitely hope we don't have any deep takes into the later first round. Actually, I think Cooper, you answered this. But I want to pose it again, I guess. Real quick, the best shooting guard in this is, are we thinking of Johnny Davis? Am I missing somebody? I know I put a question on Twitter asking, I was taught between Johnny Davis and I'm forgetting his name already, but I had another player I was considering.
Well, I mean, I would probably say Jabari Smith Jr. is the best shooting guard in this class, but that's obviously Positional definitions are always weird, right? But like in terms of your archetype of what you expect a player from a certain position to do, Jabari Smith Jr. is a shooting guard. Like his strengths are point of attack, defense, and shooting. Like that's like, I don't know. To me, that sounds like a shooting guard. But I would say, I mean, if we're going mostly based on size, I would say Johnny Davis is my top shooting guard, followed closely by Jaden Ivey. And then my hot take is Blake Wesley's not far behind those guys. So those are my three. A lot of people would have Shaedon Sharpe up there as well, but it's sort of up to the eye of the beholder. But those are my guys for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, those are pretty solidly my top three. And then after that, you have like Mathurin, McGowan's, Terquavion Smith. You have a solid chunk in that next little tier that are all interesting in their own ways, all bring something different to the table.
That makes
just
sense.
A really kind of a slept on group of shooting guard scoring prospects in this year's draft. A lot of Corbin guys.
Exactly. A lot of my guys out there for sure. One guy that now that y'all mentioned, so I imagine maybe he's not all up in there. I'd asked Malachi Branham.
I like Bryce likes Branham more than I do. I think Bryce is doing a little head thing. Branham does what he does well.
Okay.
He shoots, he scores, doesn't create a ton of space, has great touch. He's just like, I think the way I would describe him is who people think Ty is Malachi Branham, but a little bit taller. Like kind of who people picture in their heads when they think of Ty. I think that's Branham, and that's a pretty good player, but still not my favorite.
Yeah, I think Branham is more of a bet to be like a 3-point sniper than people are realizing, because how he gets his buckets just doesn't really translate to the NBA. He doesn't really get to the rim very much. His handle's not super developed, and I don't know if it's the type that I trust to develop. And the passing isn't great, and the defense is super TBD because Ohio State never played him at point of attack. He was always guarding off the ball. Even though that was supposed to be a strength of his coming into college, was that point of attack defense. But I didn't love the help stuff. I think he's good, like he's a first rounder, but I don't think he's like he's getting top 10 buzz, and I don't see it unless he's legitimately Desmond Bane as a shooter, which is kind of possible because, again, he's a touch god who is really young. So, like, he has that upside, but I think I would comfortably take all the guys we've mentioned above him.
I get that. Wow. Well, thank you. Listen, every time I get y'all on here, I'm like, I get some laughs. I get blown away with some draft knowledge. We have a fun show. It works out great. Cooper, Bryce, as always, a pleasure having y'all on. If y'all can find time in the future, we gotta do this again. This would be a blast for me. It always makes my time here when draft time comes around. I get to reach out to the group chat and be like, Avengers Assemble, Listen, can y'all tell people where they can find you? Also, if you guys have anything coming up, cooking down the pipeline. I will say first and foremost, please check out the Upside Swings podcast. Big fan of that show. They have already done a mock draft. They've already done several different positional specific pods. It was like an hour and change, like 3 or 4 of the top guys each position. Before that, they'd already went and did like the top 5 projecting the draft. So it's a lot of great content there between Bryce, Cooper, and my man and fellow Lakers fan Stone Hansen as well. Great group of people, y'all. Like great people, great draft guys. Definitely make sure to check that podcast out. But now that I've said that, I give y'all the floor. If anybody wants it.
Oh my God, I'll take the floor. Fine. Bryce is he's so humble, so annoying. You can find me like Corbin said at Ali_oop_coop. You can find some of my writing, random stuff at HTX Chop Shop, doing some draft stuff over there, Rocket specific stuff, anything Houston sports, doing upside swing stuff. And you can find us on TikTok at Upside Swings. Hopefully stuff will start getting produced there now that school's done. Work's slowing down. You can find us just at Upside Swings on Twitter, even Instagram. We do actually have an Instagram that I've posted 2 things on that I haven't told anybody about, but it's pretty cool. You can follow that and support our dreams of being Instagram models. And now Bryce can finally stop being fake humble and have the floor.
I don't really have anything to plug. Everything Coop said is correct, but thanks to Corbin for having us on, and hopefully we'll come back on before the draft and we got to do a 30 pick one as soon as Corbin's comfortable with that many picks, that many prospects. You got to look up Leonard Miller, my guy. You got to see what we're talking about.
Absolutely. I'll tell you right now what I'm going to do. Literally after this, for this next week, we're going in deep dive. We're going to make that 30 happen, baby. Like before draft, we're doing it. It's already on air. Like it's gonna happen. So yeah, I'm looking.
It's on the itinerary. It's there. We gotta
carve up the time, but it's on that list. We're gonna do full 30. I'm pumped for it, man. All right, y'all. Thanks again. Really appreciate y'all coming on as always. Definitely make sure to check them out and their work, y'all. You can find me if you wish on Twitter at Corbin NBA. Sports Ethos on Twitter at Sports Ethos. Online sportsethos.com. Nothing else really to plug. I'll have this show up, so definitely make sure to check that out with some playoff coverage. There's more fun stuff coming up. I have a Mercury thing I've been doing, so check out the Phoenix Mercury. I'll have that tagged in as well. Fun stuff as well. But aside from that, y'all, really not a whole lot happening. I'll be listening to this on Monday, so start your week off great. Until we talk again, for Cooper, for Bryce, for myself, we are Frosty. Y'all stay frosty, and I will talk to y'all real soon. All right, y'all. This has been a Sports Ethos presentation.